Good evening. Welcome to what is supposedly the last night of the presidential campaigns. This is our live fact check of President Trump's final pre-election rally. I am NowThis Politics senior politics producer, Alan Piper. I'm supported today by many in our newsroom, but most especially Ian McKenna. Because of the pandemic, I'm streaming from my home in New York's East Village. There's a chance that my signal may drop out, and if that happens, hang tight. I will be back on, and in a worst-case scenario, I will tweet my fact check from A Piper 13. We are expecting the President of the United States at any moment. He is roughly an hour behind schedule at this point. I always do like to point out that when I do note that the president is running late, that is not something that is unique to this president. Presidents tend to run late. They tend to try to pack too much into the day. That's part of the nature of the job. They don't always spend so much of the rest of the day tweeting as this president does, but it is typical for presidents to be late. Now, I'd like to try to use this time while we are waiting for the president to answer some of your questions. But first, I want to give you a glimpse of this rally crowd. As you can see, there is no social distancing occurring at this rally. It is really striking. It is really alarming to see such a large group of people clustered so close together. And while it does appear that the people in the bleachers behind where the president is going to be standing are wearing masks, most of the people in the crowd itself are not. A Stanford study released this week estimates that 18 recent rallies by the president have led to 30,000 coronavirus cases and 700 deaths. We are in the midst of a pandemic. It is not safe or appropriate for groups to cluster together like this. Now, we are expecting the President of the United States at any moment. As I said, he is a little behind schedule. I'd like to try to use the time to answer your election questions. If you're watching on Facebook, you can leave the questions in the comments, and I will be monitoring the comments, and I will attempt to answer your questions. You can also tweet them at me at apiper13. Now, tomorrow is Election Day, but in fact, it has been Election Day for weeks now. Nearly 100 million Americans have already voted, and here are a couple of things you should know. First of all, we are probably not going to know who won the election tomorrow night. Those 100 million votes, most of them were cast by mail, and mail votes take a lot longer to count. In many states, even though the ballots have been coming in for weeks, they are not even allowed to open the envelopes until tomorrow. And you'd be surprised just how long it takes to open 100 million envelopes. Now, in many counties, they won't even start counting mail ballots until Wednesday, and many states will continue to accept mail ballots for days as long as they were postmarked by Election Day. For instance, in the key swing state of North Carolina, they will accept ballots received up until November 12th as long as they are postmarked by Election Day. So, obviously, we're not going to know what was in those ballots tomorrow night if they're still coming in 10 days from now. Which brings us to the second point. Even if more people vote for Biden, Trump is likely to appear to be winning tomorrow night. As many as 70% of Biden voters are believed to have already voted by mail, while the majority of Trump voters are expected to be voting in person tomorrow. It's not too surprising. The president has been attacking mail-in voting. He has politicized it. He has spread false rumors about it. And so it is natural to understand that his supporters would be more interested in voting in person. Meanwhile, Democratic voters who are more likely to take the threat of the pandemic seriously are more likely to vote by mail. So these Trump voters who are voting tomorrow are going to get their votes counted first. Now, it has been reported that President Trump plans to declare victory tomorrow night if he's ahead, even though tomorrow night it is unlikely that the majority of votes will be counted. Now, obviously, we can't declare a winner. No matter who is leading tomorrow night, we can't declare a winner if millions of votes haven't even been taken out of the envelopes that they came in. That would be like deciding the Super Bowl based on the halftime score. It simply doesn't make sense. The president has tweeted repeatedly claiming that we must know the results on the election night. We actually never definitively know the results on election night. When news organizations make calls on election night, those are actually data projections. The votes themselves are counted over a few days, and often it's not even possible to make projections the night of. This has happened many times: 1960, 1968, 1976. 2000, the famous Bush-Gore election, that wasn't decided until December 12th. Even in 2016, 4 years ago, there was not a projection until well after midnight. So technically, we did not know who the winner was on election night. So that is some key information that you need to know before you start getting either excited or discouraged by what you see tomorrow. All right, so I'm, as I said, I'm going to use this time to try to answer some of your questions about the election. And we are expecting the president at any moment. If you leave your questions in the comments, I will try to read them from there. If you tweet them at me at apiper13, I will respond. Bass and Beans has said maybe y'all should fact-check Democrats for once. Well, we are is unprecedented. The Washington Post has been keeping a running tally of the false statements of this president. Let me see what the most recent update is. Yes, so this president has made, as of the middle of this summer, had made more than claims about voter fraud. Voter fraud is actually in real life so statistically almost non-existent. He has been claiming repeatedly that we are, quote, turning the corner on the coronavirus. The fact of the matter is that the United States reported a record-breaking number of nearly 100,000 new coronavirus cases this Friday. The number of cases just keeps going up and up and up. And the president has said that other nations envy where the U.S. is in terms of the coronavirus, and that is simply objectively false. Although the U.S. has only about 4% of the world's population, the U.S. has about 20% of the world's cases and deaths. We have more cases and deaths than any other nation. And the president has also been making blatantly false claims about his opponent. He has falsely claimed a number of positions that simply are not positions that Joe Biden has ever endorsed. He has falsely claimed that Joe Biden seeks to get rid of private insurance. Those who were following the primary know that that was a key sticking point, that he was adamantly against abolishing private insurance. The Trump campaign is falsely claiming that Biden intends to, quote, quadruple taxes. It's not true. Trump's own beloved Wharton School of Business has done an analysis showing that the Biden tax plan that has been proposed would not raise taxes on 90% of Americans. So that's why this implement Medicare for all. Well, that's the thing. What Joe Biden has proposed is a public option. Now, it was originally the intention of Obamacare to contain a public option. A lot of proponents of the public option believe that it will give you the best of both worlds. If you like the idea of having private plans, those will continue to exist, but private plans may not be able to offer the value that you get through a larger collective, and the public option is supposed to provide that. So Joe Biden's plan is to strengthen and expand Obamacare by creating a strong, robust public option. He has not endorsed Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All plan. Now, let's see. I'm looking to see if there are other questions. The Random Proggy asks, will Trump arrest Biden if Biden wins? That's a heck of a question right there. I can't predict what the president is going to try to do, but it is striking that the president has been calling for the arrest of his political opponents. This is a strange, striking, and alarming development. He has repeatedly called for the investigation and indictment and arrest of his political opponents. This is really something that is unprecedented in the United States and is frankly quite alarming. Same question. The Random Proggy says, will Trump steal the election? I have faith in the American people and our process. I don't believe that it will be possible for a candidate to steal the election. While the majority of votes are still uncounted. That would be a premature declaration of victory. And it is important for everyone to know that if he declares victory tomorrow night before the majority of votes have been counted, that will not be a legitimate declaration. We have made some videos explaining various scenarios and what can be done to prevent any sort of inappropriate shenanigans from taking place. And I will see if I can leave links to those videos in the comments of this video. I'm pulling them up right now. All right, so there are some videos coming to the comments on Facebook. that should provide you some more information about various unusual scenarios that could happen with this election. But I just want to keep emphasizing several key facts. We are unlikely to know the results of the election on election night. It is simply unlikely. It is not uncommon in normal years not to know on election night, and this is not a normal year, a year with unprecedented early voting by mail, ballots that are stacked up that have to be taken out of their envelopes and counted. It is unlikely that we will know tomorrow night. If Trump has an early lead, and if that lead begins to erode as mail-in votes are counted, President Trump is likely to try to suggest that that is suspicious, that it is, that there is some sort of shenanigans going on causing him to lose his early lead. It's no more suspicious than, I used a Super Bowl analogy, it's no more suspicious than one team getting ahead in the first half and then the other team catching up in the second half. All right, I see now that Air Force One has landed, so the President of the United States should be coming out at any moment. When he comes on, we'll let him speak, but I will be offering facts to correct areas where he is likely to not have facts. Now, we have a few more moments to try to answer your questions. The comments are going by a little fast, so it's hard to see all of them. I'm scrolling through Twitter. Again, if you tweet at me at apiper13, I will attempt to answer your questions. Now, I want to tell you, allow same-day voter registration. So even if you are not registered, if you are an eligible voter, a U.S. citizen over the age of 18 who meets your state's eligibility requirements, you can, in many states, register to vote on the same day. Vote.org can help give you the information about what your state's requirements are and where you should go to vote. If you are in line when the polls close, stay in line. As long as you are in line when the polls close, you will be allowed to vote. Now, this election could go any way. Either candidate could win. When I say that Trump is likely to have an early lead and that lead is likely to erode as more votes are counted, that doesn't mean that he won't ultimately win legitimately. Either candidate can win, but we cannot allow a candidate to claim victory when millions, potentially the majority of votes, are still uncounted. That does not serve our democracy. It does not serve either party in the long run to do that. Okay, James asks, do you think the political violence that we have seen within the United States will increase or decrease after a significant time after the election? Well, I will say that we have seen some alarming rhetoric from the President of the United States, and it has been increasing. One of the most alarming things was yesterday when the President tweeted his response to what appeared to be a road rage incident, where it appears that trucks with Trump banners appear to have attempted to drive an official Biden campaign bus off the road. President Trump tweeted his support for the people who appeared to commit that action. The FBI is investigating whether a crime was committed there, but the President of the United States has tweeted his support for it, calling the people who are accused of committing this crime patriots. That is alarming. The President of the United States continues to call for the arrest of his opponents. That is alarming. The President of the United States indulges crowds in chants of "lock her up" in reference to the governor of Michigan. We are likely to hear that tonight. Tonight's rally is in Grand Rapids, Michigan. We are likely to hear him lead or participate, or at the very least smile and laugh at, chants of "lock her up," which is an alarming thing for a president to be encouraging people to say about a governor who was the target of an alleged plot by a right-wing gang to kidnap and execute her. It simply should not be that the President of the United States finds violence, criminal violence against his political opponents to be a laughing matter. I'm looking at your questions now. Again, the Eagle has landed. We see that Air Force One has landed, so the President should be coming out any moment. I'm going to see what music is playing, which is often an indicator of how close the President is. Okay, it's Billie Jean, Michael Jackson's song, which is a staple on the Trump rally playlist. I will say that the Trump rally playlist is full of some odd choices that you would not necessarily expect to hear at a campaign rally. It has been winnowed down a lot. Many of the artists who had been on his campaign rally playlist have voiced objections and have gotten their music removed. The Rolling Stones used to be a large part of the rally playlist. It was a very strange choice for a political candidate to have his official walk-off song be "You Can't Always Get What You Want." That's not really the sort of thing that political promises are based around. It is also very striking that until recently, the President's playlist was very much, I'd say, stuck in the past. I would say that there was no music, until very recently there was no music from later than than Donald Trump's first bankruptcy. It was very much an early 80s, late 70s playlist. There have been a few contemporary tracks added into the mix. Now, we are expecting the President to come out at any moment. If you do have questions about the election, I will attempt to answer them before he comes out. I'm asking for a little less support from our team at NowThis because we are covering multiple stories at once. So I usually have help reading the comments, but I'm reading them myself as they are speeding by. So I thank you for your patience. Julie says Trump is stuck in the 60s. The music playlist really is stuck more in the late 70s, early 80s. So that's my comment there. Let's hear how the music is at this point. All right, now it is Billy Joel's Piano Man. Billy Joel is a staple of the President's playlist. Piano Man's a wonderful song. It is a little bit odd to have a song about broken dreams and quiet desperation on a political rally playlist, but it is a frequent song on the playlist. Now, I want to show you this crowd again for a moment. Just take a look at this. This is a really striking crowd to see at a moment when the U.S. is coping with surging coronavirus rates all over the country. As I mentioned earlier, a recent Stanford study has shown that the recent 18 rallies appear to be connected to 30,000 new cases of the coronavirus and 700 deaths. This is very much in striking contrast to the rallies that the Biden-Harris team hold. They have been holding socially distant rallies. Many of their rallies have been in parking lots where people were required to remain in their cars. And it has been very odd to hear the president bragging about the size of his crowd. Exactly what they are asking Americans to avoid doing. This is exactly what his administration is supposedly asking Americans to avoid doing, and yet he's asking them to do it and bragging about it and acting as if it is a badge of honor that he has larger crowds than the candidates who are abiding by public health guidelines and seeking not to have large crowds. All right, so claims of he has made numerous allegations against his opponent, Joe Biden, that are not borne out by the facts. Okay, I'm getting an update about the proximity of the president. Yes, he was due to speak over an hour ago at 10:30. But he is not yet on stage. So the president has been claiming that Joe Biden is guilty of crimes, but he has not presented the evidence to suggest that. Let me tell you about some of the things that he has been talking about. So he's been talking a lot about what he calls the so-called laptop from hell. Which is an unverified laptop that has been recovered that supposedly contains incriminating information. Now, the FBI is currently investigating whether this supposed laptop from hell is part of a foreign disinformation campaign. More than 50 former intelligence officials signed a letter saying that the supposed emails that have been recovered from this laptop have, quote, all the classic earmarks of a Russian information operation. So these supposed acts of corruption are actually not borne out by the facts. The president has been making claims that wrongdoing was committed, but he has been unable to present any actual evidence of any such wrongdoing. You're likely to hear some of those claims tonight, and we will do our best to fact check them in real time. Aha! James asks, throughout the last 4 years, which specific event do you believe was the oddest from a presidential standpoint? That is a hard one to pick. This has been an unorthodox presidency by any metric. I would say that when the president suggested that light and disinfectant could be injected inside the body as a method of treating the coronavirus, that was certainly, I think, one of the oddest moments of this presidency. I would be interested to hear what you feel are the oddest moments that you have observed. Again, we are expecting the president at any moment. He was due to come out over an hour ago, but he has not yet. So I will continue to use this time to attempt to field. So please, if you're on Facebook, leave them in the comments. If you're on Twitter, tweet them at me at apiper13, and I will try to answer them. We began doing these fact checks back in March when the president was holding daily coronavirus task force briefings. And the president was sharing so much misinformation at those briefings that it became, we at NowThis decided that it was important. We were torn. We felt that we would be failing the public to not share words that the President of the United States was sharing about a deadly pandemic, but we would also be failing the public if we shared them without any additional context, because they contained so much dangerous false information. In March, when this began, it would not have been possible to imagine that we would reach a point where more than 230,000 Americans would die. Nearly 232,000 by this day's date. It simply would not have been fathomable when this project began. And I do think that it is important to try to remember what the president is trying to make us feel as if this was expected. He frequently cites a number saying, you know what, we thought 2 million people would die, so 230,000 is actually very good. It is not true that 2 million people were expected to die. He seems to be referring to a British study that estimated that if no action was taken at all, nothing, no public mitigation, no change in personal behavior, that the result would be 2 million deaths. No one expected that the response to the deadliest health crisis in a century would be doing nothing. And for the president to now say, well, we're doing so much better than we would have been doing if we'd done nothing. If you ever came home to your parents scoring 40% on a math test and tried to explain to them, well, 40% is actually really good. I could have scored 0 if I answered none of the questions. I don't think they'd accept that answer. I don't think that your college admissions applications would accept that answer. The president spent all of January and February and half of March telling us that there was no threat. If we supposedly thought that 2 million people would die, that was a secret he kept from us, because he told us repeatedly that this was not something to be feared. And here we are now, in the middle of an election, months later, and 230,000 Americans have died. Well, we see that the Trump family is arriving. I see Don Jr., Eric, Lara Trump, Tiffany Trump are all arriving, so the president must be close behind. So we should expect to see him out here at any moment. I apologize for the delay. He was scheduled to be out an hour ago, but presidents, not just this president, all presidents do tend to run substantially behind schedule. Irene says, do you expect Biden to be ahead in the polls at midnight? And approximately when do you think we will be able to make the call as to who the next president is? Well, it's really, I think anyone who was in the prediction business in 2016 has learned that one should not be in the prediction business. But again, I want to highlight key things. 100 million, nearly 100 million votes have already been cast, and most of that is mail-in ballots. It is going to take days, at best, for those mail-in ballots to be tallied. So it would be inappropriate for either candidate to claim victory when nearly 100 million votes haven't even been counted. The odds are that Trump is going to appear to be ahead, whether he ends up ahead or not, and I'm not predicting whether he will, but he is likely to appear to be ahead tomorrow night because it is expected that 70% of Biden voters will have voted by mail, and it will take longer to count those votes. The majority of Trump voters are expected to vote in person on Election Day, and therefore their votes will be counted first. It doesn't and it shouldn't matter whose votes are counted first. All votes need to be counted. And just as it doesn't, I use the Super Bowl analogy, just as it doesn't matter if one team runs up the score in the first half, if the other team ends up scoring more later on. Okay, the President of the United States is here, so thank you for bearing with me, and we will hear what he has to say. All right, he's coming up. He is tossing out hats. Again, during a pandemic, we're being advised not to share things that people have touched. You really shouldn't just be throwing hats out into the crowd. It's really not a great thing to be doing. It's not the worst thing that he has done in terms of public health, but it is certainly not ideal. So this is in Grand Rapids, Michigan, a key swing state that the president won by less than 1% of the vote last time. He is vying to either repeat or build upon that lead, and we're going to hear what he has to say. Now, it is striking even the people behind him. I have been noticing that the people behind him have been wearing masks at rallies, even though virtually no one in the crowd have been. But at this rally, most of the people in the stands behind him also appear not to be wearing masks. All right, so he will take the microphone at any moment, and we are going to hear what he has to say. Thank you all for bearing with me. For those of you just tuning in, I am NowThis Politics senior producer, Alan Piper. I have the support of our full newsroom, but most especially Ian McKenna tonight. Continues the pattern of the past few days. He will likely make many blatantly false statements, and we will attempt to provide you the facts in real time as he makes these statements.
Thank you very much, Grand Rapids. You know, this was our final night prior to a very, very...
By the way, I just want to add, I am streaming from my home. It is possible that there will be technical difficulties. If we lose the signal from me, we will try to restore it quickly. And during any period where I am where I am unavailable on video, I will attempt to continue the fact check via Twitter at apiper13.
And we're going to win the state of, you know what we're going to win. We're going to win the state so easily. We're going to win the state of Michigan so easily. We want to do it just like last time, but let's give me a little bit more margin than that, if you don't mind. History once again. So this has been really, this was amazing. Grand Rapids, I'll never forget it though. And we were called late in the evening. Ronna, thank you very much, wherever you may be. She kept calling, saying, one more trip to Michigan. I'm telling you, one more trip. And then we heard Crooked Hillary was coming back because they were hearing, Michigan hadn't been won for a long time, many, many years by a Republican. We heard that Barack Hussein Obama and Hillary and Bill was the only one that got it right. Said, you don't want to run against Trump. He said that very early. He was the only one. He's the only one that understood what was going on, actually. But
by the way, I do want to highlight that the president just made a true statement, and it honestly would save me a lot of trouble if I only flagged the true statements. But it is true that he was the first Republican in many years to win the state of Michigan. It had not gone for a Republican in a presidential election since 1988.
And I said to my team, we have to, this is it. We've done 5, but actually 6 because we ended up last night around 2 o'clock in the morning in Miami. So we can say that includes on this. So that would be 6. We've done 6 of these big, and everyone was just a lot of people. And you know what? There was a lot of love. There was a lot of love. A lot of love. We had 45,000 people in Florida last night. By the way, we're doing very well in Florida. We're doing very, very well in Wisconsin. We're doing very well in Texas. I hear great things.
So the president boasts about his crowd size. He often exaggerates. We know that he started his presidency exaggerating about the crowd size of his inauguration. President Trump has routinely claimed that there were 32,000 people at his 2016 election rally in Michigan. The Detroit Free Press has confirmed that the capacity of the venue was 4,200. So the president appears to be grossly exaggerating the size of the crowd at his 2016 rally.
Texas. I think we're doing very well all over. I think you're going to have, I don't know if it's as much of a surprise. I don't know what's a surprise. We fulfilled everything we said we were going to fulfill, and that's why people are here. And we did some things that we never even talked about, right? We never talked about Space Force. We got in, and I said, you know what? I looked at Russia. I looked at China. I said, we need Space Force. And we did it first time in 74 years, not since the Air Force. But I want to thank you all. We have a great group of people here. I'd like to show our appreciation for our phenomenal Vice President, Mike Pence, and his amazing wife, Karen. Did he make a good speech? I saw him on the plane, and I couldn't sort of. Did he make a good speech? He's great. I'll tell you what. It was close. It was close. If I had my choice between Mike and Kamala, I think it's a very close choice, but I think we'll take one. I think we'll stick with Mike and Karen. It's funny, though. I kept saying we have to finish off here. That we have to do it. It's just we can be a little bit superstitious, right? But you people, you've been great. You've been great. And I think we're going to have a tremendous victory in Michigan. Don't forget, 4 years ago, I said, why are so many car companies leaving? You were losing everything to Mexico and to China and to, frankly, Canada, and you were losing everything. and we stopped it. And now you have many, many car plants that have already been built, are being built, renovation 17. You didn't have a deal in like 42 years or so. It was always going out. Now they're all coming in. I want to thank Prime Minister Abe of Japan. I said, Shinzo, you got to do me a favor, Shinzo. You got to build some plants. And he said, no, we are the government. We don't do that. That's up to the private sector. I said, no, Shinzo, you got to do it. You got to do it. It's not fair. You're sending too many cars in. They're built in Japan. We wanted them built in Michigan. We want them built in Ohio. We want them built in South Carolina, North Carolina. We got to do. He says, but I do not do that, Donald. And the next day they announced 5 companies are coming to Michigan.
It's not true. President Trump routinely claims that he got Japan to build 5 plants in Michigan. Japanese car companies have made 5 new investments in the U.S., including a fuel cell manufacturing factory, but they have not built any new car plants. And the president is also not telling the truth when he said that no new car plants had been coming in the decades previous. The fact of the matter is that Volvo and Mercedes-Benz announced new plants in 2015. GM built a new plant in Lansing in 2006. Jeep built a facility in 2005. So the president is just not telling the truth there.
The only one that's allowed to roam free is her husband. What's her husband like? Remember? That wasn't so long.
Claiming that social distancing guidelines and lockdowns have occurred for political reasons. Coronavirus is surging throughout the nation. 231,000 Americans have died from this. This is not a political tactic.
Ever seen before, like nobody's ever seen. So based on just, early results, though, Florida looks like it's phenomenal, just phenomenal. North Carolina is looking great. I think they're all looking great. Ohio is looking fantastic. We won Ohio last time by 8 points, and I said, well, why are, these fake polls that they put out, they're called suppression polls. If they make them bad enough, they hope you don't want to waste your time and vote, right? A little thing called peace in the Middle East. Great guy. Great guy. They like that. They like the sound. Peace in the Middle East without blood all over the sand. I think they're both wins. Big wins. With that decision, you can count the ballots later on and count them whenever you'd like. No, we have to be very, very careful with that. That causes a lot of problems. I want to thank Kimberly Guilfoyle. Kimberly is fantastic from day one. I'd watch her on the 5, and she always liked me right from the beginning, so I always liked her. If they don't like me, I never like them. It's funny the way that works. But she was their big star, and she did great, and thank you very much, Kimberly. I appreciate it very much. And Tiffany, thank you for the job you do. She goes around from place to place. She just graduated from law school. She just graduated from Georgetown. She did a great job. Thank you, honey. Thank you very much. Great job. And Michael, thank you very much. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We've worked very hard in 4 years. We've been hit by fake investigations, fake scandals, fake impeachments. We've had...
Well, they weren't fake investigations, they weren't fake scandals, they weren't fake impeachments. The fact of the matter is that the Mueller investigation found 10 potentially illegal acts of obstruction of justice. It led to many indictments, guilty pleas, and convictions. And the president was actually impeached, not fake impeached, because he attempted to withhold nearly $400 million of taxpayer aid to extort a personal political favor from a foreign head of state. And he and members of his team actually boasted about this.
A lot of fake news. Then I watched the fake news saying, his attitude is a very tough attitude. He's not very nice. He's a very nasty person. No. We're defending ourselves. We're defending all of these people that voted for us with these fake. And then what happens? It turns out to be that it was them that were guilty of all of these horrible crimes, including the crime of treason. Because when you try and take down a duly elected president, it's called treason. It's called big stuff. It's big stuff. So we're going to see how that all works out.
It is not treason to try to hold a president accountable. Presidents have been impeached before. That was not an act of treason. And what has happened is the other branches of government attempting to have accountability. And again, this claim that these investigations didn't find anything. There were 50 indictments, convictions, and guilty pleas from the Mueller probe.
Province, but it came out to the world. It came out to Europe and the United States and 188 countries all over the world. And we can never forget that. And we signed a great trade deal with China, but it doesn't mean so much. The ink wasn't dry, and all of a sudden this happened. But the job we've done, when you see the numbers, and you're going to hear the numbers because they're coming out very soon, the job we've done has been an incredible job. We had to close it up. We saved millions of lives. We now opened it up.
So several false things here. So the president has again repeated his statement that the economy was better than it had ever been. The economy was stronger under Eisenhower, Johnson, Clinton, even under President Grant. This is not the strongest economy ever in history. The president also is repeating that false claim that millions of lives were saved because he shut the country down. That is false on a attacked and continues to attack the governors that did initiate shutdowns. So he attempts to claim credit from the benefits of policies that were not even his policies.
Scam, and they come up, no collusion. There's no collusion after all of that, which makes me perhaps the most innocent man anywhere in the history of the United States.
It is just not true that they found no collusion. The Mueller report specifically said that it did not address the issue of collusion because that is not a legal term, but what it did find was numerous points of contact between the Trump campaign and Russian actors. And what we know is that Russian intelligence offered political dirt to Trump, and the Trump campaign was eager to accept the aid of a hostile foreign government. You can quibble about whether you want to call that collusion or collaborating or sneaky shenanigans, but it is simply not true to say that the report found nothing.
Grassley, did you leak the information to the newspapers? He choked when he heard Chuck Grassley from Iowa, great gentleman. He looked at that guy. He said, did you leak? And he said, yes, he choked. You know, the guy choked like a dog, Comey. He leaked, he lied. He did a lot of things. You saw the report by Inspector General Horowitz, who, by the way, did a great report. That was a great report, Inspector General Horowitz, and I appreciate it. But you saw that on Comey. Comey should hang his head in disgrace. But we had to go through all this stuff. Think if we didn't have any of it. We probably wouldn't have done as well. You know, it's true. We might not have done as well. And we might not have these massive crowds because you saw what was happening. You got it. We might not have had. So I just want to tell you, we appreciate you so much. We really do. We appreciate you so much. And now we have to build on what we've done. Nobody has done what we've done. No administration has done. Thank you. Wow, I love you too. I love you too. Thank you very much. Thank you. It's really nice. You know, in the history of politics, nobody's ever heard that expression before. It's true. Look.
This is a very weird false claim that the president keeps making. The crowd chants, "We love you," and he claims that he is the first president who's ever been the recipient, or the first political figure who's ever been the recipient of such a chant. It's not true. There was a chant at Jill Biden's event earlier today. Google Barack Obama saying "I love you" back, and you'll see supercuts of all the times that Barack Obama responded to people yelling out "We love you." People love the political figures that they love.
We have done so much good together. We've done it together. We couldn't have done it without you, and we've done so much, from the biggest tax cuts in history. It would take 18 to 20 years to get a may not get approved. It may be an environmental problem.
Cut a huge number of regulations. He has cut regulations that would prevent mining waste from being put into drinking water. He has cut OSHA safety regulations. He has cut a wide variety of regulations that are there to try to make our environment and our workplaces safer for Americans.
Made in the USA. Next year we will be, and I mean this, I think we have such a foundation. This group over here, they're an activist group. Thank you very much. Thank you, fellas.
By the way, the president has routinely claimed that he has 91% approval from the military, but a Military Times poll found that 49.9% of active duty troops had an unfavorable view of the president.
With me, and then we got hit with the Fastest rate.
Record for most new cases in a single day of 99,000. It also is not true that the auto industry is surging. In fact, auto manufacturing and sales have, prior to the pandemic, have dropped since Trump took office.
4 million jobs in the last 5 months alone, which is another record. That's another big record. We've never hired that many people that fast. While foreign nations are in a free fall, we're creating an economic powerhouse unrivaled anywhere in the world.
Okay, this is just not true. 12% of Americans, that is some 30 million Americans, reported in recent months that they did not have enough food to eat. About 30 million Americans are still receiving unemployment. Between 1 and 2 million small businesses have closed permanently or are facing permanent closure. 20 million Americans are at risk of eviction. 8 million Americans have slipped into poverty since May. And while it is true that there has been an increase in jobs compared to the previous month, we're still in the hole. The president is presiding over a net loss of jobs. I think the perfect analogy here would be if a babysitter said, you know what, I lost all 5 of your kids, but I found 2 of them, most number of kids ever retrieved by a babysitter.
And you know, he never had what it took. He was a glad-hander, not a smart guy, not a nice guy either. By the way, not a nice guy, but he was, I used to call him 1% Joe because he ran for president all the time and he never got more than 1%. Now he's got half the intelligence he had 20 years ago and he wins. Politics is a strange business, isn't it? Strange, very strange business. But if Biden and Harris and the radical left gain power, they will collapse our economy and send our nation into a very steep depression. That's what's going to happen.
So the president is making these claims without any evidence. Now, the only evidence we have to go on is track record. The fact of the matter is that the economy has fallen into recession under President Trump. Under the Obama-Biden administration, it began the longest ever streak of job creation in U.S. history.
$4 trillion. They're going to increase your taxes by $4 trillion. $4 trillion tax.
This is not true. The president routinely lies about Joe Biden's tax plan. The president's own beloved Wharton School of Business did an analysis that found that 90% of Americans would not see their taxes go up. Now, it is true. The richest Americans will see their taxes go up under Biden's plan, but his plan does not call for any tax increases for anyone earning under $400,000 a year. If you as an individual are earning less than $400,000 a year, Biden's tax does not. Earning more than $400,000 a year, congratulations.
You know it. You felt that in a very, very good place. You know where it is? Your wallet. You felt it in your wallet. They want to close down your factories, send your jobs overseas, destroy the suburbs. Women of the suburbs, please. Okay, please. I wiped out a regulation that would have destroyed your home, to put it mildly. Would have destroyed your American dream. And Ben Carson was a great guy. I said, sir, why don't we just do this? Why don't we just sort of ease it up? It's a horrible regulation. What it does is a horrible thing, and everybody...
He's talking about an anti-discrimination regulation from the Obama era.
This is terminated, and I terminated it. And you know one thing I know about the women of the suburbs? They want 2 things. They want their home, they want their family life, but they want safety, and they want security. And that's what we provide. And I think this will be like 4 years ago, remember? Donald Trump will do very poorly with women. At the end of the evening when they're all crying, remember they were... He's done very well with women. What happened? No. But this time we're going to do even better because we are providing safety and security, and for the suburban women, we're saving the suburbs. This regulation was so horrible. What it does to the suburbs, it would have destroyed the suburbs as we knew them. And I got to say this, 31% of the people living and moving to the suburbs are minority groups, African American, Asian American, Hispanic American, and they have a great American dream also. And they want to live in the suburbs and they want to be proud, and they don't want to live next to a project that somebody puts in because they play games with your zoning and other things. And all I can say is for the women, I don't even talk about the men in the suburbs. I don't care about the men in the suburbs. I only care because they're all saying, he's going, no, what about us? I don't worry about you. But the women of the suburbs are going to vote for President Trump because we love you and we're saving you. A horrible thing was going to happen, frankly. And it's been happening for years, and it's been a very bad situation. So we solved it. We terminated it. It's gone. Now, if they should get in, you can take that regulation and quadruple it, just like they want to quadruple your taxes. You can quadruple it. So I think that'll be good. I think we're going to have a great woman's. That's a pretty hard pitch, but that's the way it is, right? They want to dissolve your borders. We complete the wall in a very short period of time. We're over 400 miles.
When the president says that he's built over 400 miles of the wall, that is an exaggeration. The fact of the matter is that only about 5 miles of wall have been built in an area that did not already have a pre-existing barrier. Now, I want to just briefly circle back to his claims about the suburbs. So he has been saying that that forcing low-income housing out of suburbs is a protection against crime. A 2015 Stanford study showed that affordable housing had no effect on crime rates in higher income neighborhoods and lowered crime rates in low income neighborhoods.
Million people that have a great health care plan that love it, private plans, and they want to end it and put you on socialized medicine.
Okay, the president is lying here. If you were hoping for socialized medicine, unfortunately Joe Biden is not going to give it to you. What Joe Biden is offering is a public option. This was a key sticking point of the primaries, that Joe Biden did not want to abolish private insurers. He instead wanted to create a public option to compete with the private insurers. Donald Trump is simply lying about Biden's position.
Students, pro-American values that will be taught. Sleepy Joe Biden has vowed to abolish and eradicate the American oil and natural gas industries, and he's pledged to...
Okay, this is also not true. The president is suggesting that Joe Biden is going to immediately and completely abolish oil and natural gas. There is no such thing in the Biden plan. The Biden plan does call for massive investments in clean energy that will help our economy transition toward that. But if you were hoping to have the oil industry immediately abolished, that's not in the plan.
For a year, I am against fracking. Then he lucks out because Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren doesn't get out. So she takes enough votes. She takes votes away from Crazy Bernie, right, on Super Tuesday. And he loses by a little bit on each state, and Bernie loses again. This poor guy, Crazy Bernie. But he's running again in 4 years. Don't worry about it. No, he's the best loser I've ever seen. He can lose. He lost with Hillary. They didn't treat him too well. And then he lost But Elizabeth Warren lost it. If she would have gotten out, he would have had the votes. He would have won easily. So instead of Crazy Bernie, I'm running against a sleepy guy, right? I'm running against a very sleepy guy. We can't let the sleepy guy fool us, though, because he happens to be a corrupt politician, and they don't want to ride it.
There is no evidence of this. Now, if we wanted to get into corruption, there is a very large amount of money that the president has funneled of taxpayer dollars into his own businesses, including charging the Secret Service roughly $1 million for use of his resorts, but we can circle back to that.
But Arizona, Pennsylvania, we're doing great in Pennsylvania, by the way. I just got the word. We're doing great in Pennsylvania. It's looking good. I think you're going to have a very exciting evening or day tomorrow, but evening in particular tomorrow.
So again, the president is trying to hinge everything on what happens tomorrow night, but as I've told you, we're not going to know a lot tomorrow night because ballots are going to continue coming in for days after the election night. Now, it does appear that in 11 battlegrounds, the number of early voters, it appears that more of the early voters are registered Democrats than registered Republicans.
God, you can't even see the end of it. This is not the crowd of a second place finisher. Do you agree with that? No.
So there are a couple of things here that are also striking. The president is bragging about his crowd size. We know that he exaggerates his crowd size, but he's also bragging about his crowd size during a pandemic. He's also suggesting that the amount of people in one location at a night in Grand Rapids is an indicator of his overall standing in the race. The election is not determined by who shows up at the rallies. It's determined by who shows up with votes.
We help. We don't have to, though. Now we don't have to we do what we want. But we have some very good allies and partners that will help them. But we don't need their oil anymore. We have so much oil. We have more oil than anybody, okay? And it's an incredible thing that it's happened over the last few years, a lot of great things, and you're paying, what, $2 a gallon for your gasoline? That's okay. You know what that's like? That's like a tax cut.
It is true that the U.S. is leading the world in oil production right now. It is not true that this is the first time that the U.S. was energy independent. The Institute for Energy Research says we were energy independent in 1957.
Here's outsourcing your jobs, opening your borders, and sacrificing American blood and treasure in endless foreign wars in countries that most of you have never even heard of, okay? A vote for Biden is a vote to eradicate your auto industry. Somehow, I don't think you want to do that in your particular state. He was a cheerleader for NAFTA.
It is a strange claim to say that Biden would eradicate the auto industry. Biden was actually tasked with leadership in the Obama-Biden plan that rescued the auto industry during the depths of the recession.
The Man of the Year in Michigan. I'm still trying to figure out how that happened, but...
This is a very strange lie that President Trump keeps telling. He keeps claiming that he won the Man of the Year in Michigan award. He did not win this award because this award does not exist.
No, but I was right, and it was probably the biggest reason that I ultimately ran for the presidency, because I saw how we were being ripped off, not only the auto business, how we were being ripped off by every country in the world, friend and foe, on trade, and it just was something that was terrible. Now with the USMCA, they said there's no way I'd ever pull it off. There's no way you get rid of NAFTA. You know why? Because Mexico and Canada loved it. I said, well, if they love it, that means it can't be any good, right? They said, we never thought of that one. So I wouldn't say they're exactly thrilled with USMCA, but we're fine with it. We like it. But he was sending your auto... and it was terrible.
The president seems to be misrepresenting the way that economies work. He is suggesting that if a trade deal was good for another country, that means that it's bad for this country. Ideally, with a trade deal, the purpose is for it to be mutually beneficial.
And now they know that if they don't treat us right, we'll pull out of that deal so fast. Now all of a sudden we're winning all these cases, but we just won $7.5 billion, which would have been impossible with a different president. Let's impeach him for having a perfect conversation with the president of Ukraine. They were the ones that had the bad conversations.
The president was not impeached for having a perfect conversation. He was impeached because in the conversation with the president of Ukraine, he pressured the president to dig up dirt on a political rival. The president made nearly $400 million of taxpayer-funded military aid to a nation that needed defense against Russia, contingent upon a personal favor to advantage him politically. That is an abuse of power, and that is what he was impeached for.
No, seriously, Ukraine. His father was in charge of Russia, Ukraine, and China. President Obama entrusted him with those three countries. Those are three beauties, right? Russia, Ukraine. So Russia, Moscow, the mayor of Moscow's wife gives him $3.5 million. Hunter. Now he got, dismissed from the military, was unemployed. His father becomes vice president, and now all of a sudden he's raking in money like you never saw. Now you tell me, is that honest? And then they say, the big guy gets 10%.
The story that the president's telling here is unsubstantiated. A report by Senate Republicans seems to be the origin of this claim that Hunter Biden received $3.5 million, but the same report says that this payment was actually made not to Hunter Biden, but to a financial services company called Rosemont Seneca Thornton, which the Senate Republicans claim that Hunter Biden co-founded. But there's actually no evidence that Hunter Biden founded this company or has anything to do with this company.
$1 million to where's Hunter? You know where's Hunter? He's at the bank depositing his money. Now think of it. So he gets $1.5 billion from China. He goes with his father on Air Force Two, a plane that the great vice president.
This $1.5 billion number is also a made-up number. Hunter Biden was not paid that.
He's got the greatest people, the greatest children, the greatest family. I don't think they have, right, where they're flying airplanes for our military. No, they don't. They do it a little differently. They do it the old-fashioned way. Now, Mike Pence, it's a whole different. I always compare. I say, can you imagine with Mike Pence how good we have it with Mike Pence compared to that? No, it's great. Now, how about the China, though? So the kid has no investment experience whatsoever. His father and him, they go into Air Force Two. In 10 minutes, like a 10-minute meeting, he walks out with $1.5 billion from China. They don't do this for the biggest.
Again, this is not true. He did not get $1.5 billion payment from China.
Money. They don't need people that are much dumber than them to invest their money. They invest their own money. They don't do that. They said, wow, that's amazing. How long did it take them to get the money? About 10 minutes. Walks out with $1.5 billion to invest, which is millions of dollars a year. And the fake news and big tech, big tech is getting very dangerous. Very dangerous. But it's one of the reasons we have to win. They have me trending every day on Twitter, trending. They make up these stories, phony stories. They put up stories. Or they'll take an old story, make it as bad. #1 trend, like some really boring.
The president seems to misunderstand how social media algorithms work. There is no evidence that social media is rigged against him.
People. I'm always trending with these stories that are like, either they didn't happen or they make them different. And it's not, I don't want to act like a complainer, but it's a totally rigged deal. And
The president says, I don't want to act like a complainer. Have you been listening to this speech? Most of this speech has been about how he feels that he has been unfairly treated.
so we learned very well. We got a lot of people. You know what? If I didn't have, they say don't tweet, forget tweet. It's called social media. If we didn't have social media, I'd have no voice. We wouldn't be here. I have no choice. They say,
If he didn't have social media, he'd have no voice. He is the president of the United States of America. Without social media, he has the biggest pulpit of any human in the world.
but Joe Biden is a corrupt politician who, what he's done is he's bled America dry. In 2016, Michigan voted to fire this corrupt political establishment, and you elected an outsider as president who is finally putting America first. And if I don't sound like a typical Washington politician, it's because, thank you, I'm not a politician, thank you very much. If I don't always play by the rules of Washington.
It's not really true to say that you are not a politician when you are the president of the United States. He is very much at this point a politician, and he has been holding campaign rallies throughout his presidency. So he has been a campaigning politician for the entirety of the past 4 years.
Millions of dollars for his crazy campaign, and he's not going to win. I really don't believe he's going to win because of this. Take a look. This is going on all over the country. They have tractors, thousands of tractors. You ever see this? Thousands in Iowa. They have we're winning in Iowa, very big, by the way, just in case. Thousands of tractors in Iowa on big farms, thousands and thousands. They have thousands of boats, 6,000 boats out in the lake, out in the ocean. They have things, nobody's ever seen anything like it. So I think we're going to have a very big day. But they say you can't win without big tech. Well, we're going to find out tomorrow. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Well, you can win without big tech. This election will be decided by voters, and if you have not voted yet, you should make your plan to do it tomorrow because it is your last chance.
We won, so now we have to do it again. They're totally crooked. They're fake news. CNN is fake. CNN and the others are fake news. They own Biden. They control him, and they know that he will always do their bidding. Every corrupt force in American life that betrayed you and hurt you is supporting Joe Biden. The failed establishment that started the disastrous foreign wars that hurt our country so bad. The career politician. And decimated your factories and sent your jobs away. Biden, this election comes down to a very simple choice. Do you want to be ruled by the corrupt and selfless political maniacs that you're dealing with, or do you want to be ruled by the American people? You're supposed to be ruled by the American people. Do you want to be represented by a career politician who hates you, by an outsider? I mean, just take a look. These people, what they do and what they get away with, and I guess that's the other reason. I mean, I was in politics, and I see what's been happening to our country. Our country was going to hell, and we've turned it, and we got waylaid by this plague that came in, but we've done it.
It simply is not true to say that the country was going to hell before he took office. the longest ever streak of job growth was created under the previous administration. More jobs were created under the last 3 years of President Obama than under the first 3 years of Donald Trump. Crime went down under the Obama-Biden era. In fact, according to federal data, both violent and property crime dropped by double digits during the period that Biden was vice president. This idea, this American carnage idea that the president ran against, it is not true. Now, crime is up. Hate crimes are up. Violent crime is up. Everything that the president is claiming will be the result of electing Joe Biden is actually a thing that has happened during the Trump presidency.
American dream, we're not going to let it happen. We're not going to let that happen. We're going to keep our great American dream. A vote for Biden is a vote to give control of government over to the globalists and communists and socialists and wealthy liberal hypocrites. And
it is absurd that the president keeps trying to label Joe Biden as a socialist. Joe Biden is not a socialist. The most socialist thing in Joe Biden's plan is the fact that Joe Biden says he will protect Social Security, which the president has cut off the funding source for without explaining how he would replace it. This whole last 5 minutes has been about fear-mongering, which is very striking when the president has suggested that the reason he concealed from the American public the danger of the coronavirus, which we now know that he knew because he is on tape in February, early February, February 7th, telling Bob Woodward that he knew how deadly the coronavirus was, and then going out in the immediate days following and telling Americans it was no more dangerous than the flu, is that he said he did not want to create panic. He has just spent the last 5 minutes telling you that you will go to hell. That was the word that he used if his opponent is elected.
There's a choice between a deadly Biden lockdown, open up your state, governor, or a safe vaccine that ends the pandemic and leads to the greatest economy in the history of the world. That's where we're going. We were there, and we're going to get it back very quickly, and that's going to bring our whole country together because success brings it together, and it was happening. Before that plague came in, it was happening. People were calling me that you would least suspect, and it was all happening, and then we had to close it down and now build it up, and it's building. It's not a V, it's a super V.
Well, it's really not a super V. The fact is that this president is still presiding over a net loss of nearly 4 million jobs. That is the greatest net loss of jobs under any president in history.
But with or without it, we are rounding the turn. Just remember that. You know, they don't like it. They hate it when I say that. We're rounding the turn. And they always use Europe. Oh, look at Europe, look at Europe. Well, take a look at Europe. Look at how they're doing. And their economy is in tatters, and they have a lot of problems. And we don't want that. We don't want that. And that should have never happened. Should have never happened. That should have never been allowed to happen. Joe Biden is promising to delay the vaccine and turn America into a prison state.
This is not true. The president is lying. Joe Biden does not have a plan to slow down a vaccine, and he has not called for a lockdown.
Beat you over the head, and they're allowed to do that. But you can't go to your church. You can't have dinner with your family. But you're allowed to protest and riot. That's why I call all of these protests, because we're allowed to protest. You're not allowed to meet, and you're not allowed to pray together, but you're allowed to protest. So I call everything that we do a protest. The Biden lockdown will mean no school, no graduations, no...
The president is lying. There is no plan for a Biden lockdown. It is simply not true. Biden has said that if public health officials said that lockdowns were necessary, he would go with the advice of scientists. But he never said that he supported a lockdown, and he said that he supports a more strategic approach of containment, not a nationwide lockdown. Donald Trump has been claiming that we were turning the corner on the coronavirus since March 16th. That seems to be the first time he used that phrase. He claimed that we were turning the corner on March 16th. There were only 907 cases then. Just this past Friday, the U.S. added 99,000 new cases. The U.S. leads the entire world in cases and death. By objective metrics, the U.S. has done worse against this virus than any other nation.
Now, I'm sure it had nothing to do with the medicine. I used to sort of give the medicine a little bit of credit. Now I give it none, because I'm a perfect physical specimen, and I'm a very young person. I'm a very young person. I said that, of course, a little bit sarcastically. I said it a couple of weeks ago. I said, no, I'm better, perfect. I mean, it was very quick, very easy, because I'm in perfect physical shape, and I'm a very young man. And CNN went crazy. He is not in great shape, and he is not a young man. They went totally crazy. They are definitely, seriously losers. Could you imagine if they had to cover Sleepy Joe for 4 years? Their ratings would tank. They have the highest, all these, that's why football is not doing well. First of all, they're not going to do well. Basketball was down 71%, right? Their finals. You know why? Because our people want to see people that respect our country, respect our anthem, and respect our flag. And football's way down, but they're down for that reason, but they're also down because people would rather watch this stuff than watch football, because this is much tougher. They consider this to be much tougher, actually. But can you imagine if they covered Sleepy Joe? The ratings are phenomenal for all these things, and then they cover Sleepy Joe. Their ratings would tank. They would come to see me. Sir, I think it's really important that you run again. You're going to, because we are losing our networks. Our ratings are down the tubes. The failing New York Times will definitely be out of business very quickly. They used to write nothing about me. Now I average probably about 4 or 5 stories a day on the front page. Someday they're going to give me a good one. Watch. It might be.
It's just really striking at a moment when millions of Americans are out of work, when 20 million Americans are at risk of eviction, and when 231 million Americans have died from a horrific health crisis. The president is talking about his ratings, and he is talking about his media coverage.
He's been wrong on everything, but don't believe me, because you're Michigan. I spent all of this money on these beautiful, very large television sets. I call them beautiful large screens. They're large television sets. Let's see it for yourself, okay? Go ahead.
Joe Biden! Joe Biden! Joe Biden!
Have you taken a cognitive...
No, I haven't taken a test. Why the hell would I take a test? Come on, man. That's like saying before you got in this program, you take a test whether you're taking cocaine or not. What do you think, huh? Are you a junkie?
By the way, this is my little sister, Valerie, and I'm Jill's husband. Oh, no, this guy.
So the president is playing a video to mock Joe Biden. Much of the mockery is based around Joe Biden's difficulty getting words out. Joe Biden has been someone who has wrestled lifelong with a stutter, as millions of Americans do. The president is effectively continuing his pattern of making fun of people who have disabilities.
Bad boys. And I did. And back in those days, you show how things have changed. Play the radio. Make sure the television, make sure you have the record player on at night, the phone. Make sure the kids hear words. We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing.
The president is making fun of the fact that a man with a stutter has difficulty getting words out. It is an ironic thing for the president to make fun of. This is a man who this past week was referring to hypersonic missiles as hydrosonic missiles. Hydrosonic is a toothbrush. It is not a missile. This is a president who has wrestled with saying the name of hydroxychloroquine, the discredited drug that he was trying to push upon people, which, mind you, was not used to treat him when he actually had coronavirus. This is the president who referred to Yosemite as Yosemite. He referred to Thailand as Thailand. He is constantly deleting tweets for typos. I'm not saying that those are reasons to be for or against a president. Many presidents have had trouble getting their words out. I'm a person who sometimes struggles to get my words out. President George W. Bush certainly struggled to get a lot of his words out. But the irony of this president, who has bungled more words and names. This is the president who, at a 4th of July address, said that George Washington led his army to take over airports. This was the president who suggested that Frederick Douglass, the abolitionist who lived at the time of the Civil War, suggested that Frederick Douglass was becoming of more and more note and seemed to think that he was a present-day person. This is somebody who has referred to Nepal as nipple. This is somebody who has repeatedly, consistently spelled the word choker as chalker in tweets. He has tweeted about a smocking gun. I mean, if Donald Trump wants to make this race about Joe Biden sometimes saying the wrong word, I mean, he has picked the wrong fight.
Rest, but it never feels like enough. And here comes the train that he tried to make sure didn't continue to run. No, that's the commuter. All right. No, that's what. But folks, look. Anyway, I am very willing to let the American public judge my physical and mental my physical as well as my mental fitness.
I'll lead an effective strategy to mobilize true international effort to pressure.
The president is making fun of Joe Biden's stutter. In effect, the president is continuing his pattern of making fun of people with disabilities.
Thank you very much. Look, you can't let this happen to our country, okay? We know what's going on. You can't let this. This was a total fluke. This was a total fluke. In prime time, it didn't work, and now it's really not working. What a disaster. I can't believe this is even happening.
I can't believe this is even happening. That is a statement that I feel a lot of us have made over the past 4 years.
Imagine if the concept of losing to this guy. Oh, you better get out there and vote tomorrow. I will be so angry. I'll never come back to Michigan. I'll never come back. I'll tell Japan to bring all those plants the hell back. Joining us tonight are some great warriors, great people.
Now, it is striking. I appreciate the president was joking, but it is striking the joke that he made. He suggested that if he loses Michigan, he would ask Japan to take their plants back. Now, I know he was joking, but this is a matter where he has often not been joking. A senior DHS official has alleged that the reason that the president wanted to stop wildfire fund relief for California was political payback. The reason this president was impeached was because he attempted to withhold $400 million of taxpayer-funded military aid from a foreign leader to extort a personal political favor. In North Carolina this week, he said at his rally that he would remember. He complained that North Carolina's social distancing guidelines made it difficult for him to find a place to hold a rally, and he said, I will remember that when North Carolina needs federal aid. This is really a taxpayer funds, and
How are you? Great job. He's a very brave one. Thank you very much, Jim. Congratulations. That's a great honor, our highest honor. Ted Nugent, and he is great. Where's Ted? Great job, Ted. He's been from day one, right, Ted? Great job. Thank you very much for everything. We appreciate it. I love your sound. I love your music. And speaking of sound, music, and other things, one of the big superstars of the world, Little Pimp. There he is. How's it going? Do you want to come up and say something? Come on.
just mocking Joe Biden for getting names wrong, and he referred to Lil Pump as Little Pimp.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. That's very nice. Big star. Big star. That's very impressive. For 47 years, Joe Biden viciously attacked black Americans. He called young black men super predators. To every black American.
He did not use this phrase. There is no record of Joe Biden ever using this phrase. The president is lying.
Any chance? Thank you. Thank you, man. Thank you very much. To show Joe Biden what you think of his decision to attack you, to jail you, to betray you. And I'm fighting for you. And you know what we've done? What we've done is really something that nobody thought could have happened. Other administrations, in particular the last administration, didn't make even a move to try and get it done. We got criminal justice reform done. We got prison reform done. We got opportunity zones, all done and complete. Tim Scott. We had funding for historically black colleges and universities completed and done. And it's an honor to have done it. And I say it all the time. With the exception of Abraham Lincoln, no president has done as much for the black community as President Trump, and I'm very proud of it.
This is such a demonstrably false statement. For starters, just on a sheer objective level, President Eisenhower presided over desegregation of schools. LBJ signed into law the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Voting Rights Act, the Fair Housing Act, which actually Donald Trump and his father were sued for violating because they refused apartments to people of color. Those are much more significant achievements to happen under previous presidencies, though, of course, those are achievements that are not owned by the presidents themselves. They are owned by the activists, the heroes, people like the late John Lewis, who literally put their lives on the line. But it is also worth noting that during the presidency of Barack Obama, President Obama presided over the largest ever drop in black unemployment. And under Donald Trump, median black income the coronavirus.
A lot of it made right here in Michigan. A lot of it made right here in Michigan. We also passed VA Veterans Choice.
He did not pass Veterans Choice. This is a frequent lie of Donald Trump. Veterans Choice was passed in 2014 under President Obama.
The world's top terrorist, Soleimani, is dead. I recognize the capital of Israel and opened the American embassy in Jerusalem. I also recognized Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights. I've been working on that for 52 years. And instead of endless wars, we are now forging peace in the Middle East, and we're getting it done. It's going to happen very quickly. You watch. A vote for me and the Republican Party is a vote for the American dream. And remember, Abraham Lincoln was a proud member of the Republican Party. Abraham Lincoln. In conclusion, over the next 4 years, we will make America into the manufacturing superpower of the world. Right to keep and bear arms, your Second Amendment, which is under siege, but it's 100% secure with us in this position, Mike, right? We will never touch it. We will maintain America's unrivaled military might, and we will ensure peace through strength. We will end surprise medical billing, require price transparency, which goes into effect on January 1st. Bigger than health care. Lower drug prices even more. We have signed and done something that's never been done on prescription drug prices. Favored nations, it will bring drug prices down 50, 60, 70%, like you've never seen before. And the drug companies, Big Pharma, does not exactly like your favorite president, I will tell you, but that's okay. We broke a logjam. Favored nations. Nobody thought we'd ever do that.
The president is making some false claims here on health care. For starters, the House passed a surprise medical billing bill. It is Mitch McConnell's Senate that is not acting upon it. The House passed H.R. 3, the Lower Drug Costs Now Act. That was passed in 2019. The Senate didn't act on it. The executive order that he's been talking about signing. He held a signing ceremony on July 24th to herald that, but then said that he would postpone carrying it out in order to give the pharmaceutical industry time to negotiate. So there really has not been an achievement here in what he's saying happened in terms of drug prices.
Now you have a president who is standing up for America and standing up for the great people of Michigan. Tomorrow you have the power with the power of your vote, right? The power of your vote. But you have a power to save America, for this country will never be a socialist nation. We will never...
There is nothing socialist in the platform of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Clearly, President Trump wants to run against a socialist, but there is not one for him to run against.
Workers and get out and vote. Most important election perhaps in the history of our country.
Most important election perhaps in the history of our country. This may be a true statement by the president.
Never be anything like what we went through, and this is the most important election maybe in the history of our country. From Midland to Mackinac, from Pontiac to Battle Creek, and from Detroit to right here in Grand Rapids. I love Grand Rapids. We inherit the legacy of American patriots who gave their blood, sweat, and tears to defend our country, our families, and our freedom. We stand on the shoulders of American heroes who crossed the ocean, settled the continent, tamed the wilderness, laid down the railroads, raised up the great skyscrapers, won 2 world wars, defeated fascism and communism, and made America into the single greatest nation in the history of the world. And the best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. Proud citizens like you who helped build this country, together we will take back our country. We are taking it back at a level that nobody has believed. We are taking it back, and we are winning, and we're going to win tomorrow. We are returning power to you, the American people. With your help, your devotion, and your drive, we are going to keep on working. We are going to keep on fighting, and we are going to keep on winning, winning, winning. We are one movement, one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. And together with the incredible people of Michigan, we have made America powerful again. Our military, it's never been like. Again, and we will make America great again. Thank you, Michigan. Go out and vote. Thank you.
So the president wraps up by saying that we have made America wealthy again. The fact of the matter is that Americans are feeling far from wealthy right now. As I said, some 12% of American adults, that is about 30 million Americans, reported over the past few months that they did not have enough food on their tables. This president has presided over a net loss of 4 million jobs, the biggest job loss ever under a president. 20 million Americans are at risk of eviction, and Black and Latinx renters are twice as likely to be facing eviction. 8 million Americans have slipped into poverty since May. So if that is having made America wealthy again, I don't know how you arrive at that conclusion. He says that we have made America safe again. Violent crime is on the rise. Specifically, violent hate crimes are on the rise. And clearly, Americans are not safe when 231,000 of them have died from a disease that has not ravaged any other nation the way it has affected this one, even though we had longer to prepare for it because it came to these other countries first. The president said, we are winning, winning, winning. He has compared in the past, the fight against this virus to a war. This virus has killed more Americans than died in combat in both Iraq wars, Afghanistan, Vietnam, Korea, World War I, the Spanish-American War, the War of 1812, and the Revolutionary War combined. If this is winning, then his claim from 2016 that we're going to be winning so much, you're going to be tired of winning. Yes, if that is winning, I think many, many Americans are tired of that. I want to thank you for tuning in. I had the support of our newsroom tonight, most especially Ian McKenna, Nico Pitney, and Matt McDonough, and Alex Rabinowitz. I've had the privilege of speaking with you since we began doing these in March, and I have valued this opportunity, and I have valued the feedback I have received from you. I want to leave you with just one message tonight, and that is to vote. Whether you support this president, whether you oppose this president, you owe it to your country to be part of this election and to vote. If you've already voted, I urge you to spend the next day getting your friends and family to vote. If you have not voted, make a plan and prepare to spend however long it takes to cast your ballot. As long as you are in line when the polls close, you will be able to vote. You can find out where your polling place is and what its hours are at vote.org. These are frightening, painful times. And since I have been doing these fact checks in March, I have routinely ended moment. Make your voice heard. For Now This Politics, I am Alan Piper. Get some rest. You're going to need it. We are not, almost certainly not going to know for what comes ahead in the coming days. Please don't assume that if a candidate claims victory when millions of votes are still uncounted, that that is a correct claim. Thank you for tuning in. Please stay safe. Take care of yourself. Take care of the people that you love. And there is no better way that you can take care of them than by voting. Thank you.